including agricultural and agricultural land preservation. We review and recommend on issues relating to existing and prospective Maryland Agricultural Land Preservation Foundation easements. Additionally, we make recommendations to the county on agricultural zoning issues, other issues relating to agriculture, and on county agricultural easements. Would the board members please introduce themselves by name and farming affiliation?
I'm Steve Meyer.
Scott Welsh, Nursery Greenhouses.
We got you, Steve.
Thank you.
Okay.
Holly Gilmore, Equine.
And Megan Benjamin, staff.
Joe Wiley, staff.
David Birkenthal, staff.
Gune Job, staff.
Oh, Gune is our community planning interim division chief, so she's joining us this evening.
Oh, great.
All right, and I think Jim and Eric are on, but they're not watching this part, perhaps. And so we're just going to go ahead and get started with the first part of our meeting with Kelly Madigan for our ethics training. So I'll turn it over to you, Kelly.
Hi, guys.
I'm here. I'm just listening.
Okay.
Okay. Feel free to participate. For those that don't know me, I'm Kelly Madigan. I'm the Inspector General for Baltimore County. I also serve as the Executive Director of the Ethics Commission. There is an annual ethics training requirement for your board. So instead of kind of doing a PowerPoint presentation like I did last year, I thought it might be fun to try to do something a little bit different. I'm going to have a disclaimer. We're going to play a game. We're going to play Ethics Jeopardy for the Ag Board, and I've spent some time with Megan to have appropriate hypotheticals for your board. Ethics can be a very dry topic, and so while we're playing a game, I don't want anyone to think that because we're playing a game, ethics isn't a serious issue. I just find that it's more engaging to talk about the issues that affect your board and how I can give advice. So with that being said, we're going to play boys against girls. Here is our ethics board behind us. Here is my Vanna White. It's very excited to cross off the categories. I'm also going to do this on a PowerPoint because it's hard to see. But we have 4 different categories: Ethics Commission, Conflicts of Interest, Gifts, and Miscellaneous. They are anywhere between 100 points to 400 points. Again, feel free to interrupt me. My goal tonight is, even though we're playing a game, is for everybody to learn something or to brush up on topics that are already familiar to you. I'm not going to take more than 45 minutes. Megan will get a rope if I go 46 minutes long. Anybody have a question, want to talk about anything, feel free to interrupt me and we'll go from here. So since I'm biased, I'm going to let the girls go first. So the categories are Ethics Commission.
Hey, isn't that a conflict of interest?
It should be if it's not. Ethics Commission, which is for 100, 200, 300, and 400. Conflicts of interest, 100, 200, 300. Gifts, 100, 200. Miscellaneous, 100, 200, and 300. And when you pick a question, I will go to the PowerPoint so you'll have a close-up of the question and the color. And my lovely assistant is waiting patiently to click off whatever box is chosen first. So girls, some girl, shout out a category and how many points.
Conflicts of interest, 100.
Conflicts of interest for 100. Thank you, Megan. You don't know how to read? Well, that's a problem. Let's, I'll show you which one to click off. Conflicts of interest. This one right here. So put a G, just cross it off. Okay, Megan, for your team, Madigan Brewing Company. All of these, pay no attention to, these are all hypotheticals, not based on real life. Madigan Brewing Company is purchasing land in Upper Co, Maryland. The property is in the process of being rezoned, and they're interested in purchasing surrounding properties to expand. You, Megan, own rental property that's located next door to the Madigan Brewing Company. Madigan Brewing Company appears before your board to talk about easements and rezoning. What should you do for 100 points?
Well,
I should not participate since I have a neighboring property that would be a conflict.
Does any girl want to, Holly, do you agree with Megan's answer? Do you have a compliment to her answer? Anything you want to expand upon?
Nope, I agree with her.
Okay, great. She is correct.
you should recuse herself.
She should
Up
recuse
front.
herself. Exactly. Thanks for weighing in there, Steve, and giving the girls the 100 points. We appreciate it. Yes, so the ethics law are very clear about participation prohibitions. I have highlighted in red. It's almost time to cross something else out. Yes, I have highlighted in red the part that I think is the most relevant, right? It says they may not participate in the matter if they have a qualified relative or an interest. So I'm going to just highlight this again for everybody on the call. May not. Doesn't say should not, shall not, may not. And participation is kind of any aspect of participation, advice, voting, etc. All right, so the girls have 100 points. All right, Steve.
Thanks to Steve.
Steve, do you want to pick the next category? You have Ethics Commission. Let me see if I can switch back my screen. This is going to be a lot of back and forth, but we can do it. You've got Ethics Commission, 100, 200, 300, 400. Conflicts of Interest, 200, 300. Gifts, 100, 200, or miscellaneous?
Let's do the gifts.
Gifts. What you want, 100 or 200?
200.
Okay, Sean, right here.
Gifts for 200.
Cross this one off, please. All right, gifts for 200. Thank you, Sean. Good job. All right. Gifts for 200. I'll just share my screen. Here it is. Okay. The vice president of Madigan Brewing Company, who is a close friend and your daughter's soccer coach, offers you free tickets to the Ravens game. This is a two-part question, Steve, and you can ask other members of your team for help. Can you accept these tickets? And if you do, are there consequences?
Well, first of all, let me qualify and say I have a policy. I wouldn't accept anything.
Well, that's why you're an A+ ethics student. Good job.
Okay. Because perception sometimes becomes reality. So it can turn up later, even though there's nothing, even though you didn't take any money or any gift or anything. I mean, I've actually had this specific situation years ago.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Well, this is a good hypothetical then for you.
Yeah.
You got what's it? You're like you got home field advantage here. I didn't even know.
Yeah. Well, what happened is, I was offered tickets to the football game. Back then it wasn't the Ravens, it was the Stallions. And I said no, can't accept that.
So I agree with you that you probably shouldn't accept it. But if you do accept it, are there consequences for accepting that?
Well, you certainly would have to disclose that in your report.
You're right.
Your annual report.
Anybody, any boy want to compliment Steve's answer or talk about any issues that we haven't discussed yet?
I agree with Steve. Yeah, that's a good call, Steve. I'm in agreement.
So I want to, Steve brought up a great point that I don't have already prepared in the slide, but the first piece of the ethics rules talk about not just the actual conflict or the violation, but the appearance of the conflict of the violation. Sporting event tickets are a big no-no. It's the law is kind of written poorly. The law is written such that an exception to the gift law says elected officials can accept tickets to cultural, political events. And so a fair reading of that would say that those are the only types of tickets that are acceptable, while sporting event tickets aren't per se written in there. They're certainly not a cultural, forget the other words that they say. Hey, Sean, shh, or you have to go upstairs. The other piece of this, right, is everyone on this call is a public official, not an elected official. So that kind of extends to the county council members and to the county executive who on occasion get offered those types of tickets to those events that are pro Baltimore County. All right, the boys are in the lead with 200 points. Holly, do you want to pick a subject and a point, and we'll get my assistant here to cross it off the board. You've got Ethics Commission, 100, 200, 300, 400. Conflicts of interest, 200, 300. Gifts for 100 or miscellaneous?
Conflict of interest, 200.
Okay, right here, this one. Conflicts of interest for 200. That is good. Yeah, good job crossing it off. Is it too bumpy? Is it hard to write? Yeah. Well, you're doing a good job. Okay. Conflicts of interest for 200. Okay, Holly. So your sister is unemployed and is looking for a job at Madigan Brewing Company. Will this in any way impact your service on the board?
I would think so.
Okay, why?
Well, I mean, it's directly involved. I mean, okay, so is she applying all on her own without any, or did I reach out and ask for help? So I guess it gets a little sticky.
It's all a little sticky all the time. I think those are good questions to ask. And for those of you guys that were here last year, you've kind of heard my spiel about ethics, right? Ethics is all about the private Holly Gilmore and the Holly Gilmore who's a member of the Ag Board shouldn't be in conflict with each other. And also it's the idea that you can stack all of these facts and they can lean left, and then you can add another fact and they can lean right. So I think, Holly, those are good questions. Were you involved in securing unemployment for her? Did you reach out on her behalf as a private citizen or as a member of the Agriculture Preservation Board? Whichever one you want to pick. I mean, I think the most important discussion is the analysis of whether or not this is an issue.
I think it's an issue. I would feel that it's a conflict of interest.
Is there any girl, and I say girl in the politically correct term, that wants to compliment Holly's answer? Megan, or tell me how to pronounce your name, Majoni?
Gunnar, the N is silent.
Oh, goodness. Do you want to compliment Holly's answer?
Well, I was just here to observe, but I would say that Holly is right. Sister is part of the family. So any family member would be conflict of interest.
You can't be observing. You just got 200 points. You just complimented the answer for 200 points. Yes. Completely correct. Holly's correct, and you are correct too. That, in fact, Holly's sister is a qualified relative. So that's a spouse, parent, brother, or sister. So under the participation prohibitions of the ethics code, she can't be involved in any aspect of that. I think Holly is really correct to draw a distinction of she shouldn't be in any capacity, right? Reaching out, asking for employment, seeking employment, doing all of those things. To the point earlier on the call, that's both the actual conflict as opposed to the appearance of the conflict, like we were talking with Steve. Okay, girls in the lead, 300 to 200. How about, I'm gonna call on somebody who hasn't, David, do you wanna, okay. You have Ethics Commission, 100, 200, 300, 400, conflicts of interest, 300, gifts, 100, or miscellaneous.
Why
Pick
don't
your
we
poison, David.
why don't we do conflicts 300?
Conflicts,
Big money.
300. Keep on a steady, steady drip. Okay, Sean, can you cross this one off for me? Thank you. All right. Madigan Brewing Company was able to have your board recommend a rezoning and easement. They've asked you to enter into a contract with you for use of your rental property next door for overflow parking. Is this an issue?
This is from the previous question where
Yes, they're all, they're,
yeah.
yes, this one right there. They're all part of Madigan Brewing Company. So just to refresh, the original question is, you own a rental property that's located next door, and they appear before your board to ask about easements and rezoning. So with that information, they now got it rezoned, and now they are turning and asking you if they can use your property next door for overflow parking. Is that a problem?
Breweries and the parking. I would say yes.
This is like Dateline ethics trivia. This is ripped from the headlines.
Whatever are you talking about, Kelly?
I wanted to get something that was relevant to your board, an issue that you actually would have come across.
I would say yes. Like what Steve said, at the very least, it's the appearance. But I think this probably goes a little farther in that it is actually an applicant paying money. Whether or not they're receiving a good from me is not really the point. So they are in fact paying me, and they're becoming my employer in a way.
I think that's a great analysis. Joe or anybody else on the boys team, Steve, anybody else want to weigh in, compliment David's answer?
I think David hit it that after you got it, you were therefore receiving a contract, receiving money from somebody who just came before your board. Even if it is legit, it's still the appearance that it's a kickback for giving them what they wanted.
Yes,
Yep.
for a favor.
Oh, yep. I hear you, Steve, too. Yep. That you guys are all correct. This is, again, from that conflict of interest provision of the ethics law. They talk about may not participate if they have a contract that could reasonably expected to result in a conflict between the private interest and the official county duties. That already is going to be a problem, right? Because like we were talking about earlier, if we were going to split David down the middle, half of David is a member of the agricultural board and the other half happens to own rental property next to this brewery. So he can't kind of be on both sides of the issue, right? He can't be the person that's having the board appear before them and rezone while also being the person who's getting paid for the overflow parking. And it's certainly an entity that is known to the public official. So good job. 500 to 300. Boys, with the girls poised to pick a question. I think we're back to you, Meg. Boys are winning, yes. Your options, all of conflicts of interest are taken. You can do ethics commission, gifts for 100, or miscellaneous.
Ethics Commission for, is there a 400?
There is a 400. Oh, look at
I'll do
you
that.
going for the win. Going for the win. Okay. Sean, can you cross this one off for me down here? No? Okay. My Vanna White is quitting. Okay, here is the question. And this is actually just a nice compliment to all the things that we've been talking about. What are the difference under the ethics code for actual conflicts of interest versus perceived conflicts of interest? Is the code concerned with both, one, two, neither, all of the above?
Both, yes, both.
I would say both.
Sorry, Stephen, you're trying to give more points to the girls. We like it.
Well, it's a bigger discussion than just the exercise. I would agree.
You're both right. I copied this because I think this is something that kind of doesn't get as much playing time as it deserves when we talk about ethics and we do ethics questions, right? We talk about conflicts of interest and gifts and financial disclosures, but we've kind of failed to hit this whole idea of why we have them. Why are they important? And they are important because the foundation of public trust is, trust in the government. And somebody from the outside that's not a member of your board wouldn't necessarily know how decisions are made or not made. And so this is the idea that in order to have the highest trust in public officials, we have to make sure that they're putting Baltimore County and the Ag Board first, and we have a uniform code of conduct so that we can have faith, not that Steve or Holly or anyone is going to do something nefarious, but it's a reminder that not only are you supposed to be doing the right thing, but the law says you have to be doing the right thing. And it's evident that public confidence and trust is eroded when the conduct of business is subject to improper influence, or, as we were talking about earlier, even the appearance of improper influence. Good job, Meg. So now it's 700 to 500. Who has not yet taken a question for the boys? Joe, you're up, Joe.
Okay, bear with me. I'm making a cup of coffee here.
All right, you got Ethics Commission 100, 200, 300, gifts for 100, or miscellaneous? Miscellaneous is always scary. You never know that's going to be.
Let's go miscellaneous.
Oh, miscellaneous. All right, living on the edge. This was my attempt to put a whole bunch of catch-alls. All right. This is a question about, in essence, secondary employment, which is kind of one of the lesser used ethics rules. So Madigan Brewing Company offers you the opportunity to work secondary employment as a security guard on the weekends. It's all that overflow parking that you have to be on top of. Is this permitted under the ethics rules?
I would say no.
And you're always welcome to phone a friend or ask your teammates for help.
Go ahead, David.
There you go.
Come on, you're on my team. You don't need to raise your hand.
I'm gonna actually guess and say I know there's a separate operator form for secondary employment that needs to be filled out, and I would guess that this is a trick question in that way because it is a miscellaneous. So I'm gonna say if the boys team is comfortable with it, I'm gonna say that yes, this is permitted under the ethics rules.
But you remember that this isn't for us employees. This is for board members.
Well, they're both
right?
public officials.
You're all public officials. Yep, this is a really interesting discussion. Stephen, you want to weigh in? It seems like your teammates are in disagreement.
This is where I reached back over the years, because I was in purchasing 25 years. And there's always the one rule that says, if you're buying certain things, that's your assignment, that's your job. You also, in these industries, maybe you might be buying for just as you're earning a living. You have things you have to buy for your house, or you have to buy a car, whatever. How far do you deal with the general industries? Most of the time, you're going to buy a car, but you try to stay away from something that might end up with the wrong perception.
You know what? Everybody, I can't play Uno right now. Hold on. Everybody is right. I want to give a bonus. I'm going to award for the first time ever 50 bonus points to David. I've never done that before. I'll probably never do that again. David, I'm awarding you 50 bonus points because there actually is a secondary employment form that is supposed to be filled out and submitted to the Ethics Commission. The whole purpose behind that form is kind of what Stephen and Joe and David were saying, that there are certain types of secondary employment that you can have, and there are certain types that are restricted. In this instance, a public official may not be employed by an entity that is, I got to move my camera, I can't read that, that is a party to a contract that binds or purports to bind the counties if the duties include matters substantially related to or affecting that matter. So I think here, this is too close. This is too close probably to be working secondary employment as a security guard when that entity is appearing before your board, asking for the board to weigh in on whether or not they're entitled to things. And you've got the rental property and you've got the contract with them for the overflow parking. This is probably too close. Could you go work secondary employment at another brewing company down the road that hasn't appeared before the board? Yes, absolutely. So that was 100 plus 50. So I have 650 for the boys to 700 for the girls.
I have a question about this too.
Sure.
And apply to a spouse, child, or family member as well for a secondary job? Is it?
You know, Holly, that's a great question. It doesn't really. The secondary employment is really concerned with you, and kind of like my example of splitting Holly down the middle. The private Holly shouldn't be interfering with the Holly that's the member of the board. I think when you talk about father, brother, sister, and mother, right, those are more conflicts of interest issues and not secondary employment. The rule on secondary employment is you shouldn't be having a job that is subject to regulation by your board, agency, etc. I'll go rogue for a minute. Hold on. I'm going to go rogue, everyone. First, I was giving out 50 points. Now I'm going to pull up the law. But I think this is a good question that Holly has posed. And I think the best thing to do is to just walk through what the actual law says. Sean, I can't play Uno right now. Sorry. All right, Holly, here you go. Here is the actual law. Can everybody see my screen? Yes? Okay,
Yep.
great. So here it is. It's found in the Baltimore County Code 71302. Restrictions on employment. Except as provided in B and C, which are the exceptions, a public official may not, and then we'll go through it step by step, be employed by or have a financial interest in an entity subject to the authority of that agency, board, or commission where they're affiliated. So that's why in that example that I couldn't, or whoever it was, Joe couldn't work as a security guard by Madigan Brewing Company, because Madigan Brewing Company was subject to the authority of his board. Anybody have any questions about that? No? Okay. And the second point is an entity that's negotiating or has entered a contract with that board. So that is also if Joe is in the process of applying for that board, and his property, the board was trying to enter into a contract with him to use his property for overflow parking, right? He couldn't have that job because that entity would have been negotiating or entering a contract with that board, right? Understand? Second piece. So this is kind of, there's a lot of this type of language in the code that says they shouldn't hold an employment relationship if it would impair the impartiality and independent judgment. And then it says be employed by or have a financial interest in something that's receiving public funds. The exceptions for this are, in essence, if the Ethics Commission is going to bless it, which is why you would potentially file that secondary employment and ask them for permission. and extraordinary circumstances. So to answer your question more fully, Holly, you see under that secondary employment, there's no piece that talks about if it's a problem for your father, brother, sister, mother to have that job as a security officer. That again would be under the conflicts of interest. Any other questions?
Good. Just
No?
real
Yeah.
quick on that.
Sure.
Just for instance, to say somebody on our board,
Mhm.
we'll use John since John's not here. John has the last name of Merriman.
I always like picking on the guy that's not there. All right, what'd John do?
There are about a billion Merrimans out in the county, which, you know, he may not be directly intimately related to them, but he shares the last name with the person. How does it go about something like that?
That's a good question, but I think let's go back to the law for a second. I think there could be a million different Merrimans that are working all over Baltimore County doing a variety of things, but the restrictions on employment only apply to the public official. So John Merriman could have 27 brothers and sisters, and they could all be named John Merriman. But if those guys are not public officials under the Baltimore County Ethics Code, right? If they're not a Baltimore County employee or a member of a board or commission for Baltimore County, the ethics law has no jurisdiction over them, and they, in essence, can do anything. I mean, not anything, but anything.
Within limits.
Within limits. How about lawful? How about anything lawful? Let's say that. All right, so I have 650 to 700 girls in the lead. Holly, I'm going to call on you. You got miscellaneous, 200, 300, gifts, 100, or ethics commission?
Gifts.
Gifts. Gifts for 100. I lost my Vanna White. That's okay. He wanted me to play Uno, so that wasn't going to work. What happened here? Why can't I click out of this? Oh no. There I go. All right. Share my screen. Gifts for 100. Madigan Brewing Company had a very successful year and is appreciative of all of your work on the board. They give you free tickets to their October festival with passes for free food and beer. Is this permissible? What do you think, Holly?
I would say ethically it wouldn't look right.
Why do you think it wouldn't look great?
Well, they're kind of rewarding you for what you did to come to their, I mean, they're entertaining you free. They're giving you gifts, they're giving you prizes, they're giving you stuff.
All correct. Anybody else want to weigh in on Holly's answer? Boy or girl? Steve, we always enjoy you giving us more points. So do you want to compliment Holly's answer?
I think Holly's answer makes a lot of sense, but there's always a threshold at which you shouldn't top. Okay, and it's usually, you know, somebody comes in during the holidays and brings in a box of peanuts, or whatever. You know, some places, some jurisdictions, it's $25. Some, it's considerably more, but generally speaking, it should be minimal.
I agree with you, Steve. So this is my spiel on the gift stuff. And I'm going to show you the law because I think it's easy to kind of just track what the law says. But the first thing about gifts is this is all like a very slippery slope, right? What is a gift? A gift is the transfer of something of economic value. It's a perk. We all work for the county or are on a board that makes us a public official for the county. So the first question I always think is the most important question to ask is, are you receiving this gift in your capacity as a county employee or a member of a board? Or are you receiving this gift as in your capacity as a private citizen? right? It's very different if Joe is best friends with somebody that's running a festival and it's his neighbor and best friend, and he's inviting Joe, his neighbor, best friend of 40 years to an event, versus, hey, Joe, we had that contract negotiation. You really did me a solid. I want to extend you a perk. In corporate America, they happen all the time, and there's no problem with them. They're a problem when you work for the government or are on a board for the government, because this whole idea of the foundation of public ethics is built on public trust. No special deals. So yes, Steve is right. There are lots of exceptions to the gift law, but the biggest fundamental thing is to ask yourself, is it something I'm getting in my capacity as a public official? So it's very clear. A public official may not knowingly accept a gift, directly or indirectly, right? They talk about people that are doing business of any kind, engages in an activity, financial interest, regulated lobbyist. There are all these exceptions to the gift rule, one of which, as Steve correctly pointed out, is gifts of nominal value, right? What does that mean? Well, that's traditionally been interpreted as something under $20. So if somebody gives you a free pen, a turkey sandwich, in theory, that is not a gift, right? I think this becomes trickier, and we've had this discussion before, it's not one turkey sandwich, right? It's 2 turkey sandwiches, and then maybe you're at $14, maybe you're at $20. It's not a bottle of water, it's a bottle of whiskey, on and on and on and on. To me, the threshold questions are, why am I receiving this? Is it in my personal capacity or in my capacity as a public official? Is this a gift? Is this what, and maybe it's not a gift that is per se against the rules, but that's again the whole actual versus perceived. And as everyone on this call fills out a financial disclosure, that is the vehicle with which government kind of discloses their interest. So then you'd have to determine if you thought it was a gift and it was something you wanted to attend. And there's plenty of instances in our lives when we have to attend events or accept things. Maybe Holly, it's really important to her to go to this Oktoberfest because it's going to be good for business, or it's a close friend, or I don't know. There's some reason why it's important for her to attend. A couple different ways to handle this. Obviously, you can always call me. You can always ask the Ethics Commission. But maybe Holly really wants to attend this Oktoberfest. She could just simply pay for the value of her tickets. When she pays for her tickets, it's no longer a gift. She can handle it that way. She can attend. She can then disclose it on her financial disclosure. A lot of this, again, is your personality. Plenty of people disclose things on their financial disclosure that they have no requirement to do, but that's because they would prefer to over disclose as opposed to under disclose. I will tell you, as a general matter, nobody ever gets in trouble, so to speak, for over disclosing. You can look at some of the elected officials' financial disclosures, which are published on our website, and our county executive, for example, lists every $5 bag of candy that he receives because he has taken the position that it's easier to just pop that bubble and disclose it. Any questions about that? Going once, going twice. Okay, I think we're back to Stephen. Stephen, you get to pick the next question. We are down to Ethics Commission. No more conflicts of interest, no more gifts, or miscellaneous.
Okay, so Ethics Commission.
Do you want Ethics Commission 100, 200, or 300?
Make it 300.
300. Ooh, this is a tricky one, Steve. How do you get in contact with the Ethics Commission?
You
can phone a friend. You can phone Megan or Joe or David.
Well, you can contact your legal department.
That's right.
Go online.
I call you, Kelly.
There you go. Good job, Meg. There's a couple of different, I'm going to help you out here, Stephen. There's a couple different ways to contact the commission. Ethics Commission at BaltimoreCountyMD.gov. the 887-5904, the Office of the Inspector General's website. You can always call me. You can always call me. You can always email me. Kelly Madigan, the most Irish name you can think of.
And you can also file a complaint online.
There you go. Thanks, David.
Oh.
Okay, Megan, you're up. You got Ethics Commission 100 or 200, or miscellaneous 200 or 300? Oh, you're muted.
Ethics Commission 200.
200. Why are the public ethics laws necessary?
To maintain trust in government, transparency.
Good job. Good job. Good answer. Okay, who has did Steve Meyer hop on the call?
Scott is on.
Scott, can I call on you, Scott? He's like, why is she calling on me? I just logged on. Can I call on you, Scott? No, he's not on the call. Is he on the call, Meg?
He was.
Oh, hold on. Scott, you there?
I am, but I keep losing it. I don't know why. I couldn't even get the video on, so it must be something in my service. I can hear everything, but I can't communicate.
Okay, well, I'm gonna let you pick between Ethics Commission or miscellaneous, and I'll read the question to you. Which one do you want?
I'll take the Ethics Commission.
Okay, Ethics Commission for 100. What are the duties and responsibilities of the Ethics Commission?
Oh,
That's a
my.
tricky
Keep
one,
us-
Scott. You might have to phone a friend.
I know. Joe, can you help me out here?
So the duties and the responsibilities of the Ethics Commission is to make sure that all government peoples and David's laughing, sorry.
It's fine. Don't laugh away. It's good.
To make sure that that we all act in a ethic capability, that we're not taking kickbacks, we're not doing conflicts of interest, and you guys investigate any claims. And you also, if we have any questions, we can come to you to make sure, say, is this ethical or not? Typically, if you have to ask, it's not, but we can always ask you guys.
Great answer, Joe. Really, that was a tough question. I should have made that probably worth 400, not 100.
Thanks, Joe.
You still could. You still could make it worth 100.
It never surprises me that most people don't know what the Ethics Commission does. They're a board, just like your board. They consist of 5 civilians, 3 of whom have to be from a different political party than the current county executive. I think that is done intentionally for them to be independent and bipartisan. But their duties are to interpret and administer the public ethics laws, receive, review, and investigate complaints, conduct hearings, findings of fact, issue advisory opinions. They're reactive, not proactive. All right, I think I've got like 2 minutes left. We're going to do the last 2 questions. We'll just open them up to the group so everybody can answer, and then we'll call it a day. Okay, miscellaneous question 2. Your board receives the application for state easements. You see that Madigan Brewing Company has been approved for an easement near your rental property. What, if anything, can you do with this information? David, I'm going to call on you because you were laughing at Joe and he gave a perfect answer. See, that's karma right there.
In my defense, he said ethics in that answer like 7 times. This is one of the instances in which you can't disclose this information or make any actions based on it. I would say it's kind of like insider trading.
Exactly. That's exactly right. I'm gonna change your answer a little bit, David. Insider trading has a dollar amount associated with it. The important distinction here is that there's no dollar amount. It's just the idea that you can't disclose confidential information, regardless of if it has a dollar value or not. And then the last question for the group, your service with the board is over. After you file your financial disclosure statement, you're approved by Madigan Brewing Company and asked to be a paying consultant for some of their easement issues. Is this permitted under the ethics law? Anyone? It's a hard one. How about Scott? You can hear me, but you can't see me. You want to take a stab at this one, Scott?
No, and I was just shaking my head. I wouldn't even know the answer to that. I would say you shouldn't,
Okay.
but that may not be the right answer.
No, it's totally the right answer. And if nothing else, if no one has learned anything in Ethics Jeopardy other than I've been yelling at my 5-year-old to stop asking me to play Uno, you'll learn the answer to this question. This is another piece of the ethics law that is kind of not used that often, but it's this idea, the key words here are participated significantly. So if you participated significantly in something, you know how for lawsuits there's a plaintiff versus defendant. It's the whole idea that in that versus, if you participated significantly in something, you can't be on the opposite side of the V. So if as a board member, you were heavily involved in this easement issue, right, and negotiating it on this side of the V, you can't then turn around and be a paid consultant on the other side of the V. Now you can go be a paid consultant on something else, but you shouldn't be one on something that you participated significantly on. So again, let's use like a hokey example. If it's a rainbow, right? And as a member of the ag board, you discuss the red part of the rainbow, the yellow part of the rainbow, and the orange part of the rainbow. And somebody wants you to go be a consultant for the red, orange, and yellow. You can't do that. Can you go and be paid and talk about, and litigate matters before the board on the green rainbow, the purple rainbow, the blue rainbow? Absolutely. But it can't be something that you were intimately involved in, right? Like if you were in the Office of Law and you were drafting contracts to go buy 123 Main Street, you can't then turn around and represent 123 Main Street and suing the county for something inappropriate with that contract. That was going to be your answer, right, Scott?
Well, yeah, but that's a little bit more complicated than I was going to put it.
Okay. All right, before I hop off the call, by a show of hands, did anybody learn anything?
Yep.
Did anybody like this better or worse than a traditional lecture? You guys are my guinea pigs.
Better.
Very fun.
Better.
Yes.
That was good.
Okay. All right. I'll
But
take
who
it.
won? Who won?
Oh, who won? Right. Okay. So
Ethics
let me
won.
see.
We all won.
Y'all won.
Baltimore County won, Meg. That's who won. Baltimore County for having such ethical public officials. So the
Correct.
boys had 600, 900, 1,000. The boys had 1,050 for my bonus points for David, and the girls had 800. Girls had 1,000. Boys won by that 50. You can't make it up. You can't make it up.
Oh my goodness.
Nail biter.
I
Ah,
would have
David.
never planned that. Never, ever, ever would that work so well.
That's
Okay.
because we made the
Megan,
girls draw
Megan?
4.
Megan,
Yes.
I've been
That was
just
45
listening. I do have a
minutes.
question. I got one question
Go ahead, Jim.
Sure.
for Kelly. The last question,
Yeah.
is there a time limit on that? Or if you
Yes.
worked in
there
a,
is-
the
Yep,
red,
there
green,
is
and
a
blue,
time
whatever
on
you
that.
said, in like
Yeah.
10 years, could I do that? In 20 years or never?
Okay, let me, I don't know, Megan, how much more stuff do you have? Do I have 5 minutes to pull up the code?
Yeah, you have 5 minutes.
Okay. All right, let me pull up the code. Going rogue again. Where is it on here? Okay. That's a great
Sorry.
question, Jim.
Sorry, Megan.
That's okay.
That is a great question. So I got to find it. Participated significantly. So right here, they have it in 2 different pieces. So a former county executive, county administrative officer, or head may not assist or represent someone in a specific matter for 1 year. And then an elected official is 1 year. So any elected official or department head is 1 year. But I think for anybody else, it could be forever. It's just whether or not you participated significantly. So to kind of, again, I think maybe the rainbow example is the easiest one. If as an ag board member, you were working on the red, orange, and yellow piece of the rainbow, it seems that you would be barred from involvement on that, because it doesn't, here it is, Jim. Sorry, it's right here. Except for a former member of county council, a former public official may not assist or represent someone if it's involving county government and they participated significantly in the matter. So for a non-elected, non-department head, a Joe average public official, there is no time limit on that. It's matter specific, not time specific.
It's a life sentence then. You can't do anything.
a life sentence, Jim. You have to forever work at the soil you work at the soil conservation, right?
Yes.
There
32
you go.
years. It's time
You
to
can
go.
never leave. You can never leave. It's your life sentence. You got to get commuted by the governor.
All right. Thanks.
Any other questions? Okay. Thanks so much, everyone. Thanks to Megan for allowing me to have this harebrained idea that I wanted to try. I thought it could be fun. Thanks everybody for being good sports while I parented and playing along.
Thank you, Kelly.
Bye.
Have a good night.
You too.
Thanks, Kelly.
All right. So I guess, Polly, do you want to, we just have the minutes to approve. You want to call for a motion on that and then. Did anyone have any comments on the minutes?
Megan, do we just need to move it forward?
Yes. Yep.
I'll make the motion then.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right. Thank you. So the only other item that we have on is the discussion about our Lisa form. Okay, I guess we have a couple of other things. So we didn't have anything under most of these things, just the status update of transactions. So we have 3 baselines that 2 of them will be going out tomorrow to do. One is our first county ag easement that we're completing the baseline on and are close to closing that, which is exciting. And then we have 2 mouth easements that are ready for their baselines. And then Joe is getting together the inspections, final inspections for the year of the county easements. And then the only other item that we have this evening is the discussion of potential changes for the Lisa form. And David had sent out the information on that. And so we'll just turn it over to David to lead us through that.
Sure. So everyone should have received in the email, we put together 5 staff-generated potential Lisa edits. And I want to be clear, these aren't things that definitely need to happen, nor are they the only things that we're going to allow to happen. So I reached out to everyone in the last couple of weeks to talk about whether or not you could see any different changes. And that conversation can continue into the next month. Our hope is to vote for these changes in November. Hopefully we'll have a full board and everyone will have had an opportunity to look at them and have a say. So I think what we'll do tonight is just go through these 5 staff-generated ones, have any conversation we like to have, and then decide. There's 3 board members here. If any one of these sticks out as something that we don't want to continue forward or that we don't want to consider in November, then we can mark that out. But otherwise, I'll just go through the reasoning behind each of these staff-generated ones. So starting first, this is D1A. Is regarding the amount of points assigned for a road frontage. As we encountered this year, several of our applications often don't have any road frontage. but we were assigning them the same amount of points for those that had less than 50. I think this is just the kind of thing that the last time the LISA or when this section was created, nobody kind of considered that maybe we'll have these type of applications. So we don't want to assign points for no road frontage. So we just added that option. Does anyone have any comments on that now?
No.
Okay, seeing none, I'll keep going. This is D1B. Do a little bit more of an extensive one, so I would like to spend a little bit more time explaining this one. What we were looking at was trying to place more emphasis on those properties that are giving up quite a few development rights. We have a county easement going through now that I believe is extinguishing 5 development rights, if I'm correct. And in the previous iteration of that favoritism only gave you 6 more points, which isn't that huge of a difference, even though you're giving this large portion. So this doesn't totally change that. It still is not a huge difference between the two, the most you can give and the least. But of course, this also allows for the development right to increase incrementally rather than just being in blocks. The difference between 2 and 3 development rights is quite extensive in actuality, but we didn't place that on the LISA. So this is something that I think is kind of a big change. So if anyone would have a thought now or like just talk to me or anyone on staff in the next month, I would be happy to have that conversation. Anyone want to jump in now on this one?
I mean, I think that's important that we are eliminating some of these developments. I mean, that's what the whole purpose is. Well, somewhat of the purpose is. So the more we're going to be taken off the market, I think the more valuable the property might be. Isn't that the case?
Yes, yeah. So, Scott, are you then saying this is a good change?
I mean, to me, I think it's a good change, but I mean, what do you think, Steve?
So doesn't seem to have a lot of impact. You're only looking at 5 or 6 points. And, in 5 or 6 points and scoring all the different locations, it is not much. It would have to be a little more significant to be of any value, I think.
I was thinking on this one, perhaps we could plug this into some of the recent cycles just to see how this would impact the ranking, if at all, just to test it that way.
Well, that's a good idea.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea too.
I agree. I'll work with Joe and make sure we have that out to y'all before the next meeting, so you can look at that and consider before we vote on it. Okay. Moving on. Right, so this is one that I had spoken a little bit about with John. I'm sorry, no, that's the next one. This one was kind of just making sure that the LISA was clearer and that the point assignment, how we were supposed to assign points, was better understood. If you recall when we were going around, and as we have in the past, according to Megan and Joe, if a property has water, they get all 5 points. If they've installed something, they get all 5 points. So this allows for more of a range in comparison to other farms, being that we are attempting to rank different farms or different properties. So this allows us to have a better idea of how we should assign the points 1 through 5. And again, not a major change. It's a bit better formatting, in my opinion, as well, just to make things a bit clearer for us. But overall, I wouldn't say this is a huge change in the rankings, though it could sway points up to about 10. Of all of them, I think this is the one that would change the rankings the most if it was implemented, though I don't think that's significant.
This is Eric. Yeah. You said there's still time to comment on this. This is the only question that I'd like to talk to Jim about it a little bit since this involves us
Okay.
greatly. So I might have some, suggestions. That's all we can.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I think we definitely would like to hear any views that y'all have on these. So as I said, we're going to be voting on these in November, but I'll be happy to take any comments and make sure everyone hears them before then.
Yeah.
So if you want to get in contact with us.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you.
Would anyone else like to jump in on this one? Okay. Our next one, this one is, if you recall, we just kind of look at the farm and say how much property, I'm sorry, how much the capital improvements there are, and there wasn't much of a scale. So this is similarly a suggestion to improve our ability to differentiate between really high level properties with great capital improvements versus those that have a barn or have just a few outhouses, that sort, or run-in sheds. So once again, not a huge difference in the assignment of points, but allowing for a greater scale rather than just you have to be in one of these categories.
I think it should be recognized if you have a set of grain bins, which can get rather sophisticated if you look at what's out there. And it really impacts the property for ag use, because that really would be a drawing card for somebody to want to preserve. That you have all this capacity, if you do, or even if you have reasonable capacity. And the same thing would apply to any other structure that holds feed or product. If the farm in the future is basically into vegetable production, and they might want to hold once a month, hold an auction on the property, then, building to house that operation, again, would make this stand out from other average property, where you really, it's just a question of how much land can be leased.
Right.
We have a lot of properties like that.
And
So I
Steve,
think we should. Go ahead.
oh no, I was just going to ask, do you feel that this change allows us to give more points to maybe those in the
Yes.
between? Okay.
Yes.
That's
I
good to hear.
mean, there's, we all went and remember the properties we looked at this last go round. And one property did stand out and still had the core of its facilities still intact and probably aren't far away from being able to be used. It's not like it's something it's derelict. It has buildings for both livestock, for feed production and storage, including a decent chunk of land too. But I think that's one thing that was missing and could have helped some people out if they wanted to. They want to be successful in creating an easement, but we would put them over the edge, so to speak, would be if they had some storage bins on site or silos or whatever.
Right. Okay. No, yeah, I see what you're saying there at the end. And I hope this change, that those kind of like what we would say somewhere in between the year 6 and year 10 in the old operation, or the original text here, and then allowing to give them the 7, 8, or 9, and hopefully being able to then push that up. Yeah.
That would be good, Dave.
Okay. And then just one last one, and we can all get out of here. So this one, pretty clear. We're just changing the language here. It's the titles, if you recall, there are the list down of different types of scenic qualities and different types of historic attributes. And this way it says, please choose all that apply. we really only want to choose one in this particular question, so we've just changed the language. Does anyone have any comments on this part? Okay, so seeing none, I'll go on. I think that was our last thing. Megan, I'll throw it back to you. Let me.
Sure. So that is all that we had on the agenda. Does anyone have anything else to bring up? If not, I guess we can have a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Right. All right, thank you, everyone. Our next meeting is November 10th. So we'll be in touch.
Thanks, Megan.
Thank you. Good night.